Buckingham Palace loomed, #ver London, its golden gates and stoic guards masking a tempest brewing within its hallowed halls. The silence that enveloped the palace was no mere pause. It was a #alculated hush, a signal that a seismic scandal was unfolding. One tea-hat threatened to unravel the very fabric of the monarchy. Meghan Markle was back in the headlines, but this time it wasn't for a red carpet appearance or a podcast drop. It was a messier, more explosive fallout that had King Charles reportedly sharpening the metaphorical axe. And no, this wasn't tabloid hyperbole. The king was genuinely considering stripping Meghan of Her Royal Highness titles, a move that might be the only card left to play. The crisis erupted when Meghan dipped her toes into yet another business #venture, this time the hospitality industry. On the surface, it's #ounded harmless, a new venture to showcase her entrepreneurial spirit. But the twist was a bombshell. She allegedly labelled the business gifts with compliments of Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, invoking the very title Queen Elizabeth had explicitly asked her not to use when she and Harry #stepped back from royal duties. That promise, once a fragile truce, was dissolving faster than cheap jam in hot water, and King Charles was watching it crumble with #wing dismay. Grant Harold, the king's former butler and a man who #ad spent more time in Charles's orbit than most, didn't hold back. He bluntly predicted Meghan's hospitality venture would flop, not just due to a lack of business savvy, but because, as he put it, she was about as hospitable as a reptile house at the zoo. Harsh words, perhaps, but they echoed a sentiment gaining traction within palace walls. The real outrage, however, stemmed from Meghan's apparent use of her royal status, something she had agreed to #Eve behind, to legitimize her ventures and rake in profits. When Queen Elizabeth brokered the compromise allowing Harry and Meghan to retain their RH titles as long as they didn't use them publicly, it was a gesture of trust, a royal handshake meant to preserve peace. Yet there they were, with monogrammed jam jars and gift tags bearing royal seals popping up like a Bison challenge, turning that trust into a mockery. This wasn't just a breach of etiquette. It was a slap in the face to the institution Charles had spent his life upholding. For years, the king had played the peacemaker, taking the high road and avoiding confrontation, but Meghan's relentless bending of rules was beginning to look like a weakness that threatened to tarnish the #round's credibility. What made the situation even more bizarre was Meghan's apparent obsession with her titles. She branded herself across correspondence, stationery, and public shoutouts, with Her Royal Highness sprinkled like confetti, a stark contrast to her public narrative of being a strong, independent woman. Every move screamed the opposite of independence. It was a desperate cling to an institution she claimed to despise. And then there was Harry, the reluctant prince caught in the crossfire. Insiders whispered he was unhappy, uncomfortable with Meghan's use of the titles, especially after her Netflix show openly mocked the Queen. Yet, if that didn't prompt him to set boundaries, what would? He had become a background character in his own life, a royal spectator watching the drama unfold with a powerless, muted expression, perhaps even tinged with embarrassment. His situation took a grittier turn when Meghan didn't stop at jam labels. She reposted a letter from a Ukrainian official addressing as Her Royal Highness on Instagram, a public flex that wasn't subtle or accidental. It was a calculated move, a shot across #Hebo, and Charles noticed. Everyone did. The quiet agreement had turned into a joke, and the king's patience was wearing thin. Charles wasn't just frustrated, he was furious. This wasn't about a few jam jars anymore. It was a slow, deliberate erosion of royal boundaries, all wrapped in pastel packaging and polished Instagram posts. The problem wasn't just Meghan's use of the title. It was and she knew exactly what she was doing. Every Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex on a card was a middle finger to the deal that allowed her to walk away while keeping a slice of the royal brand. The Palace had stayed quiet for years, hoping public pressure or common sense would rein her in, but Meghan pushed harder. Grant Harold's warnings weren't made in a vacuum. He knew Charles and the restraint it had taken to hold back. With the monarchy's image growing more fragile by the day, something had to give. Stripping Meghan of her Royal Highness title wouldn't be unprecedented. Sarah Ferguson lost /RS after her divorce. Prince /SS Diana gave hers up, and Prince Andrews was stripped in disgrace. A single letters patent from the king could erase Meghan's Her Royal Highness in an instant. No parliament needed, no drawn-out proc #S, just a royal signature, and it would be done. But the symbolism was what mattered most. Meghan's brand relied on the implication of royalty. Without the Her Royal Highness, she'd be just Meghan, stripped of the illusion that had propped up her Venter #S. Meghan's team would argue she wasn't breaking any rules, claiming personal letters or reposted Instagram stories didn't count as commercial use. On paper, they might have a point. The Queen's directly #VE was to avoid official or commercial exploitation, but anyone with a shred of insight could see the truth. She was using royal branding as a marketing tool, a prop to elevate her jam business, lifestyle content, and rumored hotel chain. The public wasn't blind to it either. The backlash to the jam stunt was deafening, with ordinary people growing tired of a couple who left the monarchy yet continued to profit from its prestige. That pressure was mounting on King Charles, whose silence was starting to look like weakness, as if he feared confronting what everyone else saw so clearly. The Instagram repost from the Ukrainian vice president was the final straw. A strategic move, not an oversight #HT. Senior ling Meghan's intent to exploit the title as long as it existed. Charles faced a stark choice: accept the mockery, or shut it down permanently. Insiders revealed the palace was weighing options, and Charles was done with olive branches. This was no longer about keeping peace. It was about protecting the crown's integrity, which was being merchandised under his watch. The scandal deepened as new leaks surfaced, suggesting Meghan's ventures were backed by shadowy deals with Hollywood elites, using royal ties to secure funding and partnerships. A former palace aide, speaking anonymously, claimed to have seen contracts hinting at a plan to leverage the Her Royal Highness title for a global brand empire, with the jam launch as just the beginning. The revelation sent shockwaves, though the palace dismissed it as fabrication. Yet, the damage was done. Trust in #the monarchy eroded further. Harry's discomfort grew palpable, his public appearances grew stiffer, his silence a tacit admission of his powerlessness. Rumors swirled of a hidden vault, not of jam jars, but of recorded conversat #irons with royal family members, allegedly used as leverage to secure their exit deal. The palace-intensive #eyed its silence, but the public's hunger for truth became insatiable #E. Podcasters unearthed alleged payments to obscure PR firms and discrepancies in Meghan's #bus *ins filings, painting a picture of a calculated deception. William, now a key figure alongside Charles, urged a discreet investigation, fearing the scandal could taint his own reign. The review uncovered irregularities, unexplained transactions, cancelled palace meetings tied to Meghan's ventures, but stopped short of a public reveal, leaving the king with a dilemma: act decisively or risk the monarchy's collapse. As the crisis unfolded, Meghan doubled down, launching a high-profile hotel project branded with subtle royal nod #S, further inflaming tensions. Les convened a secret council, to baiting not just stripping the Her Royal Highness, but the Duke and Duchess titles. A move requiring parliamentary approval, but possible with enough pressure. The prospects a #NT Meghan's camp into a frenzy, with legal threats and public statements decrying a witch hunt. Harwai, caught between loyalty and regret, reportedly sought counsel from old friends, hinting at a desire to distance himself, but remained tethered to Meghan's orbit. The PU Blick watched, divided. Some vilified Meghan as an opportunist, others saw her as a victim of royal rigidity. By 4:33 p.m. +07 on Wednesday, July 9, 2025, the palace issued a cryptic statement hinting at necessary actions to protect royal integrity, leaving the world guessing. The monarchy teetered on a knife edge, its future hinging on Charles's next move, while Meghan's brand thrived #Ed in the chaos, a testament to her ability to turn scandal into pro #fit. The story echoed through palace